2 weeks ago, my cousin and I effed up. I don't know whether we effed up or we were effed up. It was on a Saturday evening. We'd had dinner and we were set to leave for our place. Then we received a phone call discouraging us from leaving. We were encouraged to wait for my aunt, which we did gracefully up until around 12 a.m. So at 12, we called my aunt to inquire whether she was actually coming back or not. She picked up and said she was unsure. Apparently, she was in hospital. Well, when she had left, we didn't know she was headed to hospital. She was headed to some family gathering or something. And then she said she'd get back to us whether she'll be able to come back home or not. A few minutes later, she called back and told us that she was not going to come back and that we should just get going. So we locked the house and left at around 1 a.m. or was it 2 a.m. And we found our way to our place. Of course, it was a bit unsafe and a bit insecure for us to trek from her place to our place. We came across a bunch of youths who seemed rowdy and were under the influence of drugs. And then we got here. And then around 2 a.m., we started sleeping. We woke up 9 hours later, around 11 a.m. And upon waking up, we realized that my aunt had tried to reach out to us unsuccessfully around 10:40 a.m. And we froze because we were like, wow, this is not good. And we didn't call back. We just trekked to her place again. Hopefully, we wanted to find her there and maybe talk it out or something. But then when we got there, she was not around. She'd left for some other place to run some other errands. And we decided to come back and wait. Okay, we had breakfast and then came back. And then in the afternoon, she called again. Now, this was the moment of the reckoning because now we were going to hear the verdict, quote unquote. So again, we found our way to her place to go and listen to what she had to say. We found her sleeping and she was infuriated. So we sat quietly, not knowing what to do or what not to do. And then she started with some very reflective questions, asking us about the nature of our lives, whether we're serious or stuff like that, whether we really cared, whether we were really humane. And I was like, what? Well, this is interesting. And for a moment, I found myself going through a cycle of reactions. At first, I froze. I was like, okay. I went silent for a moment, just listening. My body locked up, my chest, my intestines, everything was just clogged up in a way. I didn't even know what I was feeling yet at that time. And then as the conversation advanced and as the scolding intensified, it was actually from around 3 or 5 p.m. till 4:30. Yeah, that's how long it lasted. And during the other time, I found myself trying to like get out of the place, just wanting to get going, to leave that room for a moment because it's not a conflict I wanted to partake in. And then later, I replayed that moment and got angry at myself, at everyone else. I even got angry at my mom because she had a role to play and I had a barrage of facts which I bombarded her with, trying to justify our stance. Of course, I won eventually. And then towards the end, we found ourselves phoning or appeasing each other because I was like, you know what, it's fine, we're on the wrong, blah, 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 blah. Because you see, we're working with an adult, someone who's bigger than us. So becoming the lesser beings sounded or seemed as the best bet or as the best option. So in my view, phoning was what really helped us. And those are the basic responses, which are more or less survival in nature. That was the basis of like the discussion today. the 4 F's, which are basically survival responses, that in a conflict, there's a way you tend to respond or react, and it's imperative that you understand those default responses to conflict. So one of them is freeze, which I highlighted initially. So when you freeze is when shock or you become overwhelmed by emotions. Then there's flight, where you escape or avoid, just as the name suggests, you try to fly away from the conflict, you try to downplay or assume it. And then there's a fight, where you become defensive or confrontational in nature. You're like, you know what, let's fight. And then there's a fawn or the appease, where you become people pleasing to restore peace. You know what, it's fine, it's okay, it's okay. So the fawn or appease. So basically there are four, and they, in one way or another, influence how we approach conflicts. And they're automatic, they're not things you can like think through and then eventually develop or formulate. They're automatic, and they're influenced by three major things. Number one, temperament. So there are four temperaments: the sanguines, the cholerics, the phlegmatics, and melancholics. So depending on your temperament type, you'll find that you are inclined towards one or more survival response. For example, phlegmatic, I love peace, so I tend to fawn a lot or be appeasing. And then you'll find this cholerics or maybe sanguines who will settle for fight or freeze. I don't know. It depends on your personality. Aside from your personality or temperament, there's also the past experiences, the things you've gone through growing up, your childhood experiences, your memories, and everything. Those things kind of influence how you respond to conflict, because there are those individuals who, growing up, were used to being silenced and being told to shut up or being told to keep quiet. So you'll find these people tending to incline towards avoidance or escape, the flight mode. And then there are those who, growing up, saw people argue in a very open and confrontational manner, so they tend to incline towards the fight mode. And then there are those who prefer to freeze or to be overwhelmed based on the experiences they've had in their lives. Then there's the relational dynamics. They also play a role in how we respond to conflict, how we relate to people. For example, if I'm arguing with my mom, there's a way I'll respond to that conflict. If I'm arguing with my cousin or my aunt or with a friend of mine, there's a way I'll respond differently to that sort of conflict. So again, relational dynamics tend to influence how we respond and react to conflict, or which of the four survival responses we use, whether we use freeze, whether we use flight, fight, or even fawn. And then for a moment, I'd love to make you reflect, ponder, or think about the latest time you had a conflict. Like, think of a recent conflict you had and tell me your first instinct. What came to mind? I've just given you an example of a recent conflict I had, or a recent conflict my cousin and I had with my aunt. So what was your first instinct? What came to mind first? Did you fight? Did you fly? Did you freeze, or did you fall? Which one came first? Okay. Upon reflecting, I'd like to also inquire whether the reaction you had protected you from, or did it like cost you in a way? So did it protect you, or did it cost you, that reaction you chose? Whether it was freezing, whether it was fleeing or fighting or phoning, did it really help you, or did it protect you? And what did it cost you? So think about that. Think of a recent conflict. What was your first instinct? Did you freeze? Did you flee? Did you flee, fight, or fawn? And then what did that reaction protect you from? And what did it cost you? Think about those for a moment. And as we come to a close, I'd like to give you a challenge that for this coming week, or this week basically, Notice your first reaction in conflict, because we get into conflict almost every other time. Notice your first reaction in conflict. Don't judge it, just name it. And you see, naming is very important, because once you name it, you can tame it. So you name to tame. So for this week, notice your first reaction in conflict. Did you fight? Did you fly? What did you do? So notice that and then name it. Okay, don't judge it, name it. And then after naming it, that forms the basis of future action, because once you know your default, then it implies that you can act. And remember, the essence of that default is to give you a starting point, okay? And once you have a starting point, it's not your destiny, of course, it's just a clue, it's a starting point, okay? So it's a starting point. And once you know that this is where I am right now, at least you can forge a way forward. And then in the upcoming episode, we'll be exploring the art of the I statement, how you can communicate needs without blame. I've told you in this particular conflict I had experienced recently, it was more or less like blame game. You did this, we called first, you didn't call, blah, blah, about us blaming her. And this is Ongea, a space for voice, vulnerability, and vision. And our rhythm, pretty simple: listen, learn, and lead.